All right, so welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. My name is Andy Woodward. I'm the practice director of our technology team here at Avaap, and I'm sure that everyone here is at some stage of planning their move to CloudSuite. You know, whether you already started, you're just planning or visioning stages. Today and tomorrow, you're going to get a lot of information about CloudSuite, about a lot of the current and future offerings available in those family of products. You know, instead, I wanted to take a little deviation and talk about some of the or some of the things we need to consider when it comes to maintaining our current system. Most of us that are on the start my video. Okay. Most of us that are on version 10, we've got some clients on version 9 still. So what do I need to do over the next period as I go down this road towards CloudSuite to keep in consideration to keep my system up and running at optimal performance? So like everything else on the planet, you know, everything has a lifespan, and so does the software. So Infor in recent months has issued a few notifications, and it seems like every time a new one comes out, I get a surge of emails from our customers wanting to know how this is going to impact their system. They all seem to follow the same thing. You know, what does this mean? Or is my current version still supported? You know, when is version 10 going off support? So I want to go through a few of those announcements. And, you know, if you have any questions about any of these along the way, put them in the chat. We'll try to get to as many questions as we can at the end. So the first one, and this has been around for a while, the LS is STS. So this is Lawson Security as a secure token service. You know, this announcement came out in 2018, and they're basically saying that as of March of 2019, which I know that's all past, this was, it's been taken away as far as what the supportability going forward in the LSF architecture. So basically, as the announcement read, you know, they would not be supporting LS's STS going forward. You know, the recommendation here is to update your LSF and Landmark and associated products to ADFS authentication. I think everybody knows this announcement is the ADFS requirement. You know, some of the versions you need to be at to support this, you know, LSF 10.07, and once you get to 10.0.10 and above, it is a requirement. Landmark 10.1.1.16 and Landmark 11 always supports it. Infor Security Services 11, Smart Office. The Smart Office grid needs to be at this version. Mingo 11 and above, and of course ADFS 3.0 and 4.0. ADFS 2.0 was supported, but that runs on the Windows 2008 platform, which Microsoft has sort of decommissioned, so we don't even want to look at that. One of the other announcements that came out in August of last year was from Microsoft. You know, they announced that they would be putting in future updates that would not allow simple LDAP binds. You know, in terms of the Lawson world, you know, that's a big thing because Lawson uses simple bindings for authentication, or at least in the current V10 stack without ADFS. So the original announcement, you know, was going to be that this patch would be put out by Microsoft in early 2020. You know, due to COVID, they sort of pushed that out to the second half of 2020. Over the last couple of days, I've been scouring the Microsoft sites. They haven't really narrowed down a specific date when that's going to come out. I'm continuing to look each day to see so we can let our customers know as soon as possible when this may be released. But the recommendation here is to go ahead and update your LSF and Landmark, you know, to LDAP-S, you know, so it won't have a problem whenever that patch does come out if you accidentally take it in your environment. You know, what the impacts are really are to LDAP bind services and any LDAP calls to ADLDS, which is the Lawson LSF LDAP, if you're using that. If you're on like TDS or you know, if you're an iSeries customer, this probably doesn't impact you if you're not using the Microsoft LDAP. The next announcement that came out was around Landmark. So in February of 2020, you know, Infor issued a critical notification about the Landmark runtime environment. And what that basically meant, it was identified as a risk, you know, a very low risk, but it was a risk of potential for swapping of sessions between two active users. The recommendation here, you know, update Landmark to the latest version or the latest CU that contain the fix. The versions we're talking about here are Landmark 10.1.181 and above, you're good. Or if you're on Landmark 11.0.29 and above, all of those versions would contain that particular fix. The next one, which I think created a little bit of confusion, Infor OS 11.1. You know, everybody knows Infor OS at this point as the current UI in the cloud environment. You know, but what they're really talking about here is the Mingle 11 platform. So it used to be known as Infor XI. The notice was basically identified that the identified products, you know, would move from extended support to sustaining maintenance in March 1st of 2021. So that's coming up pretty soon, you know, within the next 6 months. And usually when it goes to sustained maintenance, you know, there's usually an upcharge or a premium fees associated with keeping the maintenance on that particular set of products. So the products affected here, well, the recommendation is to upgrade to Infor OS, you know, 12X, which this is the same UI that's used in CloudSuite. So if you're thinking about, you know, a slow transition to CloudSuite, you want to get users used to what the new UI is going to look and feel like. You could implement Infor OS 12 now on your system, and you know, start that transition into what will ultimately be the UI in CloudSuite. The products impacted here, you can see, you know, check your Mingle version if you're in 11.1 and previous, and it's Foundation and Enterprise. For a lot of Lawson customers that deployed Foundation, Mingle Foundation. Infor Federation Services 11, you know, any of the ION 11X products and IDM 11X products in previous. So those are the ones that will be impacted by that. The next announcement that's come out recently in July was BSI. It basically announced the end of Tax Factory 10. This really impacts the payroll customers. If you're not a Lawson payroll user, you're probably not as impacted by this. But if you're still running version 9 or version 10 S3 payroll applications, you're going to be impacted by this one. Basically, BSI is reached end of life for that support. The recommendation here is to upgrade to Tax Factory 11. This is a new install. It's not an in-place upgrade. So you install and go through a migration process to get your any custom data that you have moved over. There are patches that are going to be required for the 9 and 10 LSF environments as well as the payroll application. So there are some required CTPs that need to be applied as part of this. You know, the recommendation is to go ahead and plan this as soon as possible to give you adequate enough time to be ready before the April 31st end of support for this particular product. The next on the list are actually a couple of notices that were released in August of this year. So Mobile Supply Chain Management version 10 and the MSCM Windows Mobile handhelds. Excuse me. Although the original announcement had mainstream maintenance for MSDM 10 ending on March of next year, you know, Infor has subsequently kind of pushed that out a little bit to be the end of March of 2022 and extended maintenance ending a year later in March of 2023. So our recommendation here is to upgrade to MSCM 12. This is the single source version. It's the same version used in the cloud and is compatible with version 10 and CloudSuite supply management applications. So you could use this now, get it deployed, get people used to it, and they would automatically have that same application as they move, your MSCM users as they move into the CloudSuite. Going forward, all the new features and functionality are going to be put into the version 11.2 product. So you'll begin to see, some new features not available in the 10 versions. This is an in-place upgrade. The minimum versions you're going to need to do this is LSF 10.0.10, and hopefully by the end of September, they're supposed to have 10.0.9, if that's the environment you're on, supported. And you need to be at least at 10.1.7 MSCM in order to do the in-place upgrade. If you're on an earlier version, it becomes a two-step process. You need to get to 10.1.7 and then upgrade to 11.2. On the Windows Mobile handheld, on January 1st of next year, they're going to end new enhancement support for these Windows Mobile devices. Now, the reason for this end of support so soon is basically on the older Windows Mobile devices, the manufacturer's ending life for these devices at the end of this year. The recommendation is to upgrade to any Google supported Android devices. So if you still have one of those old devices, it's probably getting near end of life anyway. The one exception on the manufacturer side I put up here was the Zebra's MC55, this particular model. If you have this, the manufacturer's not ending support, but from Infor's standpoint, all the new development is going into the Android platform. So any new features, if you have some of these old devices, any of the new features that come out, may not be supported on your handheld. So, take a look at where you're at with your devices. Look at, what the supported models are in both your current version and the version 11 MSCM. We want to make sure you get the most life out of your purchases and not replace a handheld that is not going to give you the features going forward. And anyway, when updating any of these previously mentioned products, you also have to keep in mind the compatibility with all the other third-party products, that support the Infor environment and applications. For instance, things like WebSphere. Java, your Micro Focus compiler, databases, operating systems, end of support from the manufacturer of these products are always important, and comparing those with what's supported within your Infor environment is important to keep track of. So we're kind of here to help you make sense of all this. So if you'd like to schedule, a complimentary review of your current systems, you could message us here in chat, or you could reach out to Melissa or Amy, and we could set you up with, a private chat to go over your environment, do a review of the versions you have, map you out a good roadmap that'll keep you maintained and supported until you do make that leap to CloudSuite.
Hey, Andy, I did get a question in the private chat. I was hoping it'd be okay to ask it now.
Yeah, I think I'm doing good. I'm ahead of schedule, I thought. So
you are. You're cooking with grease, as they say.
Yeah.
So, okay, for V10 ending support for BSI, what product will integrate with version 10, or will the tax tables be built in version 10?
I guess the product that's being decommissioned is the BSI product, not any Infor product. And the payroll applications integrate with that. And the reason we have to put environment and application patches on is so they'll be able to talk to the new BSI application. From the BSI's application standpoint, like I mentioned before, it is a new install, so it'll be installed new. It'll have its own database. Part of the install is to download all the tax information from BSI, any bulletins that are out at that point. And then there's one additional step. If you do have custom tables or anything as part of your BSI or custom formulas, there's a process to export those and import them into BSI 11. Does that answer the question, hopefully?
Well, as far as I can tell, it did, Andy, but I'm probably not the best one to ask for that. If you are the person who asked this question, it didn't answer it, by all means, open up your phone line, go ahead and ask. And, that's why we're here. So, anyone who has questions about any of the decommissioned products that Andy covered, or even if there's something that hasn't been covered, this is a great opportunity to ask a question.
Andy, this is Kenyatta Chandler from CODA. That did answer the question. Actually, it came through my payroll manager here at CODA also. So yes, that did answer the question.
Great. Glad.
Thank you very much. And, anyone else who has a question, by all means, ask. And, if this is something, as we said earlier, if you don't want to ask your questions in front of the whole group and want to have a one-on-one or one-on-several conversation with Andy or our tech team, we're certainly happy to set that up, whether you head into a breakout room now or set it up at another time that's more convenient for you and your team.
This is Kelly at CODA. I have a question. I was going to ask it, but I waited till late on the last one. But I kind of feel like it's still relevant because we are on V10 and we're trying to determine our path, right? And in relation to the global ledger, how does are the like asset management, EAM, payroll, are those modules outside of global ledger? Are they still considered subsystems? How does that work?
Well, in the CloudSuite, financials and supply management includes global ledger. Think of it, like you would think of subsystem. It includes global ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, asset management. But you're particularly talking about enterprise asset management, which is a separate application than the CloudSuite. But all the other applications like purchasing, requisitioning, anything on the supply chain side. We did mention mobile supply management. That is a separate application. Now they're all integrated tightly with Infor CSF, either directly or through the ION integration on the back end. So all the systems are finely tuned to talk to each other, so it's a seamless, one view from the user standpoint.
Okay, and that includes payroll. Is that sort of outside global ledger or in global ledger?
Payroll, well, technically, there's a technical and then there's a functional answer to that. I mean, technically, the HCM applications are all built on the same platform as the financials, global ledger, and accounts payable, and all those applications. So yeah, it is seamlessly integrated. They do share data quite extensively, but the current S3 payroll, which I think you're on, excuse me, version 10, that would be, when you went to CloudSuite HCM, that would be migrated into, the new GHR payroll. So yeah, it would be all part of the same HCM bundle of applications.
Yeah, and we use EAM now we also use asset management module, but we do also have EAM.
Yes.
Requisitions into our inventory. And that is integrated through the Ion. Am I
Yeah,
saying that right? And
right.
that's the
So there's
same
certain,
thing.
yeah, go ahead, sorry.
And that's the same in CloudSuite. Are there advantages or what are there improvements to EAM in CloudSuite?
Well, I'm not the EAM application expert. I don't know if it's the exact same application that you have now that you would get in CloudSuite. Traditionally, there's a lot more
Right.
functionality and features in the CloudSuite applications than you had in the previous V10. And that's one of the benefits. They're re-envisioned, and a lot of capabilities have been incorporated that you didn't have in the V10 product suite. So as far as EAM goes, I would assume there's probably additional features and functionality, and that's where all the future development's going to go. So any new features that are going to be added, would be added at that point in the cloud version.
Okay, we've heard a lot of experience with those users saying that the Ion integration, like they have trouble with the Ion integration, and I just heard it's probably because we're on this old version. I'm assuming that has been smoothed out going into CloudSuite.
Yeah, the integration you have now with V10, it's still back end as Ion, but it's a little, it's definitely gotten a lot better and works much smoother, I guess is the best term, in the CloudSuite. It's definitely more robust, and they've also, because it's a cloud deployed application, have incorporated a lot of performance tuning in the cloud to make it perform better as if you were on premise.
Now, we were told that you could upgrade different modules. Would EAM work if you upgraded it before you upgraded your GL and stuff?
You mean if you moved EAM into the cloud?
Yes.
Potentially you could do that, yes. You just have to worry about the connectivity back to your V10 on-premise system, which is not an impossibility. Not everybody rolls everything out into the cloud, in the first wave. There's pros and cons. It really should sit down and look at what the business drivers are, what you really are trying to gain from doing that, and make sure, we help you map out the best possible path to get to CloudSuite. It's going to work for you.